Forever. Dog.
Okay. Joe, one of the things that we have been tracking this year on Movies Baby is Kevin Costner, legendary actor Kevin Costner's quest, his in his own words, Sisyphean quest to get his 4-part, roughly 12-hour Western Horizon and American Saga made and released in theaters without completely ruining his own life in the process. So, quick summary of the history of this. Horizon Part 1 came out back in June. The word on the street, much like Megalopolis, was Costner had to finance most of this himself, with mortgages on his house, blah, blah, blah. Cost about $100 million. It bombs in theaters, making only $38 million worldwide. Apparently did all right on VOD, but not a success because Chapter 2, which was supposed to screen in August, got shelved indefinitely. It's currently slated for a 2025 release. We'll see. That feels like a very TBD kind of scheduling of it. He's also shot a little bit of Chapter 3. He hasn't shot any of Chapter 4. And then most recently, like we said last week, he's been shopping around the idea of this behind-the-scenes documentary a la Hearts of Darkness or Lost in La Mancha as a way of rustling up some additional revenue. But the reason I bring this up now is because this past week, Costner did a panel discussion hosted by Deadline where he addressed the future of Horizon to a rapt audience, breathless for any information they can get about Horizon American Saga. And I want to draw your attention to a few quotes. First of all, like I said, he likened the project, which he first began thinking about in the late 80s, to pushing the rock of Sisyphus up the mountain and to searching for proof of extraterrestrial life in the universe. Now, he said, though, defiantly, he said, I'm going to make 3. So we're down to 3 now. Oh, wait, no, sorry. He means I'm going to make part 3.
Yeah.
Okay, not I'm going to make 3. Okay. I'm going to make so he thinks of it as like he thinks of it as 3.
He calls Horizon and American Saga Part 3.
So he calls them 1, 2, 3, and 4 in his head. Okay.
Yeah.
So
cool.
I'm going to make 3. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to make it, and then I'm going to make the 4th one.
There you go.
He said.
There you go.
But as to how he's going to find the money to get these 2 very big films financed, he said, and this is the quote that was getting the most attention. He said, I'm hoping, I'm dreaming, I'm meeting all the billionaires that we all hear about. They're all hiding in the shadows.
All right.
Joe, what the fuck is Kevin Costner talking about? He's got shadowy billionaire money now?
No, he doesn't.
When I
seemingly.
said, but does he want it?
Sure.
So is this, all right, here's my question for you. Because for some context, I read the Deadline article. I didn't just read the tweets.
Mm-hmm.
And the Deadline article points out that
you read the whole
I read the article. You read the article, like an old-fashioned person.
All 4 paragraphs.
That's right. And that article said that people were like laughing. Like, I think it was a little bit of a jokey line. He's being a little cute. But to what extent is this real? I mean, where's he going? Larry Ellison, who just bought Paramount?
Brett.
Bezos is making movies, as we'll talk about with Red One. Where is Costner going to find this magical money?
If there's anything I learned ever, is there's money out there. You just got to meet it at the right time and the right place. And you're never going to know when that is if you don't get out there and keep trying. You miss every shot you don't take, okay, Brett? Costner is out there fighting the fight. And he will go to whatever depths necessary to present his 12-hour-long Western story, Horizon and American Saga. This week, they started giving out some technical awards for the Academy Awards. These events are sort of like campaigning events where all of the potential nominees sort of go to glad hand, right? Everybody was in the room. Domingo was in the room shaking hands. Daniel Craig's in the room shaking hands.
Domingo
right?
from SNL, the SNL
Colson
character?
Domingo.
Oh, right. Sorry. The real Domingo.
Yes,
the real
only
Domingo.
Mr. Domingo, Mr. Colson Domingo. Do
you think?
Craig's
sorry, quick. Do you? Because you know what I'm about to ask.
No.
Because Coleman Domingo's in the middle of his 2nd year in a row of like hard Academy Awards push, and eventually he's going to get an award come hell or high water. Do you think his team is mad that right now when you Google Domingo, it goes to the SNL character and not to Coleman Domingo during his very important FYC campaign?
Yes, but the spin is so many people right now are Googling Domingo. It's actually good.
Maybe it goes the other way.
People weren't Googling Domingo last
right.
week. Now the clicks on Domingo are through the roof, Colson.
Okay. What's good for the goose is good for the gander, is what you're saying.
Everybody's
Sorry, keep
glad
going.
handing at the event.
Got
Glad
it.
handing. And do you know who was out there glad handing, trying to get his award movie, a little buzz in the noms? Costner with Horizon, glad handing.
Okay.
Not only is he meeting billionaires to finance 3 and 4, he's meeting the Academy voters, trying to wiggle his way back into the conversation. He's running his own private free FYC campaign via the press, via his gumption, via his moxie, and he's going to take us all on a ride.
Kevin, you need $20 million tomorrow or you're going to lose your house.
He's $75 million in the hole.
You need,
on
don't
this
worry about
project alone.
awards right now, okay?
Part 2 screened at Venice, didn't go well.
Yes,
Bad
I know.
reviews.
None of this is good.
Part 3, they shot a little bit, ran out of money. No one will give him money. One thing I learned in this life, somebody has the money. Go to the Saudis.
Okay.
Go to Trump just won.
Right.
Some piece of shit that loves
part
here's 3.
Here's the thing.
Go find, Mr. Money of the Western Front to go make Horizon.
Go down to Mar-a-Lago. You will find parts 3 and 4 in Mar-a-Lago.
Go to
You'll
Mar-a-Lago.
find the funding. Because here's what's going to happen. He needs what? Part 1 was $100 million. Let's say he gets a little cheaper with it. Let's say he needs 150.
I think it was 110 for both 1 and 2.
Okay, so let's say he needs 100 to finish 3 and 4.
Fair.
Let's say that. You're telling me Jared Kushner doesn't need to hide $100 million?
That's what I'm saying.
Give me
what
a
if
break.
they did like a branded integration with, Trump's Garden of Heroes or something, and they built a statue of Kevin Costner in there, and then they paid for it, and they took a bit of the profit. You could do that politics. The other politics is on Dem side. Com Harris, 15 weeks, 1.5 B, in and out.
So
maybe Costner should run for president next cycle and then use some of the money for Horizon.
So the next question is, at what point does it just become not worth it to make Horizon chapters 3 and 4? At what point
have
is
you
it
ever wanted something
too far?
You don't get it. You just need instant gratification. You don't know about the long game and the power of the satisfaction of winning.
You want the star of Waterworld, the star of Field of Dreams, to go glad handing at Mar-a-Lago just to finish his Western vanity project? This guy needs to think about his children.
If that's what it takes, money's green. If the Mar-a-Lago money is just as dirty as the money up at the into the highest penthouse in Manhattan.
Here's what I saw. The one time I ever had good seats at a Dodgers game because of like a work thing that I won at an old job.
Honey,
I told you this before, right?
Yes.
The one time I had good seats at a Dodgers game, who was sitting
Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner and his family was sitting a couple rows away from me. And after this guy knows how to act in big situations though, because after the game, I've told you this dude just walks onto the field with his family like he owns Dodger Stadium and no one said anything. And he took a picture with Justin Turner. That's those kids.
Yeah.
I don't look. Not going to guess about their ages. There's no way those kids are out of high school yet. He still has kids in the house.
You've made this
he
point
needs
before.
To pay for
what do we care about the children of Kevin Costner? And they're like, you're worried about their inheritance. You're worried about the Costner estate. Who cares?
At a point, you got to eat your losses. You got to eat your losses.
To the American people in the form of Horizon Part 1, 2, a little bit of 3.
I'm
maybe
not worried
4.
about the estate. I'm worried about lunch money for next week. Is the way this thing is going.
Costners have lunch for next week. They're fine. The Costner children, what are they, 40? They're fine. Don't worry about them. Worry about me.
Kevin, at a point, exactly. Listen to Joe is making this argument for himself so he can personally watch.
Every argument I make is for myself. I'm only one man.
I'm arguing for you and for your best interest. It's time to eat the loss, baby. It's time to open up and bite down and eat the loss. It's time to do draft day 2 or whatever fucking little script is sitting around that you can make a quick, 5 to 10 million off of.
Hey, you know what? You're right. Good idea.
Right?
Go do Thor fucking 6.
Play
Thor's,
there we go.
Stupid uncle and finance it that way. That's a good idea.
They would
go work for your money.
Take
I like
the
that
MCU
idea.
job. Take the MCU job.
You know what?
There's an MCU job on your desk right now that you've been avoiding for years. You got to take the MCU job.
And you should do like a stage show like Charlie Sheen when he went off the rails, like the Tiger Tour or whatever. I want to see like Costner in a stadium seating show at MSG. He's unwoke and he's going off the rails and he's speaking his mind about Horizon.
He's showing dailies from chapter 3.
Yeah, he's spilling secrets about could be great.
Now, this
about
doesn't have a
what's happening
score
on
or
set.
visual effects or color correction, but you're going to love what I did with these mountains in this scene.
Kickstart it. Kickstart part
All
4.
right,
$50
you heard it,
million.
Kevin. Well, it's your problem, Kevin. We have our own problems to fix because this week on Movies, baby, it's the calm before the storm. Wicked and Gladiator 2 are about to hit theaters like an effing tornado this weekend. But before they do, we want to catch you up on Red 1, Guy Madden's Rumours, small things like these, some of the biggest movies of the year, baby! Plus streaming recommendations, Hollywood news, box office updates, and that's just in the first hour.
That's a hell of a show.
In the second half of the show, we're doing part 2 of our Oscar Power Rankings, something we're going to keep doing between now and the awards. And this week, we're looking at the performance categories. We're going to tell you who's trending up, who's trending down in the world of the best actress race, best supporting actor, best supporting actress, and so on. Joe, are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
Margo, let's roll that theme song. There it is. Oh, hot to go.
Domingo.
Remember? I can't get enough. I can't get enough movies, baby. I can't get enough movies, baby. But how about you out there? Do you have it bad too? Yeah. I know that you do. Whenever one ends, it's like the death of a friend. I get to wishing that there were 2 more reels. And then a voice cries out, "Move, baby, you're in my seat, and you don't want to mess with who the Billy Movie Freak."
Me.
There he is.
I can't get enough movies, baby. I can't get enough movies, baby. Oh, yes, it's true. Oh, I've got it bad, too.
He's got it bad.
Every night of the year, like the moon, I appear at all the movie theaters all over town.
Every single one.
Cut to black.
Roll credits.
Whoa, baby, I'm lost in a fog. I need someone to talk to.
Hi.
Look, it's the Georgia Movie Dog. Georgia Movie Dog.
Can't get enough movies, baby.
I can't get enough movies, baby.
I can't get enough movies, baby.
Welcome to Movies, Baby, the weekly show where we break out the hottest movie news, review the latest releases, shout out forgotten classics, and prophesy the future of Hollywood.
That was from memory.
My name is Joe Cilio, a.k.a. the Philly Movie Freak, here as always with my partner, Brett Boehm, a.k.a. the Georgia Movie Dog.
Go Dogs! Big win against the Vols last weekend, Joe. We're back in the playoff hunt, baby. But we're not here to talk college football. We're here to talk movies. Margo, show me the money. Wow, wow, wow.
Bang!
Do my
have
eyes
a new winner.
me, or are we looking at last weekend's box office returns? We do have a new winner. As expected, Venom: The Last Dance finally gave up its top spot after 3 weeks in a row. You had a great run, Venom: The Last Dance, but move over because Amazon MGM's action-adventure Christmas fantasy comedy Red 1, which Joe saw,
I did.
took the top spot this week with 32 million domestic. Venom slipped to 2, followed by Best Christmas Pageant Ever, Heretic, The Wild Robots, Smile 2, Conclave. This fun little group of outcasts that's been making the top 10 during this election season interim we've been going through. This is like getting stuck in the elevator with strangers for like 4 hours. Like you'll never forget them for the rest of your life, but you have nothing in common.
Mm-hmm.
All from all over the place. I love this little crew, this little group though. There's not a whole lot to learn from this week's box office. It is, again, the appetizer before the main course of the next 2 weeks. But let's take a look at Red One's kind of numbers and financials here, because I do think Red One's a pretty interesting case study when we're talking about film financing in the 21st century. So Red One had a pretty torturous history. Filming began in October 2022 in Atlanta and wrapped in February 2023. So this thing's been wrapped for a year and a half. It was originally scheduled to be released on Prime last Christmas 23, but then it was delayed because of the strike, and they couldn't kind of do it the way they wanted to do it. And so it finally got a theatrical release now, November 2024. God, there's so much funny stuff to talk about with Red One. I mean, while we're still talking about the financials, can we dig into this Dwayne The Rock Johnson's weird sort of antics on the Red One set? Okay. So The Rock, who's the star of this movie, and hasn't really like starred in a big premiere movie for quite a while now. I mean, he gets the traction of being part of the Fast and the Furious family, but like Rock-led movies have had a sort of shrinking ceiling over the last 5 years. But don't tell him that, because he thought Red One was going to be fucking massive. Apparently, this is one of the funniest stories I've heard this year. The Rock watched an IMAX screening of Oppenheimer last year while Red One's principal photography was still underway. And while he's watching the screening of Oppenheimer, he apparently thought that, as good as Oppenheimer looked, Red One was really going to look great in IMAX. And he said, quote, that Red One in the IMAX format equals game over, baby. And I don't think he was talking about his own career. I think he meant like game over, like it's going to crush. It's going to be the biggest movie of the year. It's going to start a new holiday franchise. This is also the same Dwayne The Rock Johnson who reportedly added $50 million to the budget because he couldn't show up to work on time. Reports are he was an average of 7 to 8 hours late to film his scenes and missed several days of shooting. And so you're asking, that added $50 million to the budget? What the hell is the budget for this movie, Joe?
It didn't add $50 million. The movie cost...
The reports?
No, the movie cost
$250 million!
This POS cost $250 million. Now, this movie, a couple things about that number. So, Brett, here we have it. Domestic, $32 million grossed, with another additional $50 million overseas for a paltry 80. Here's what the Amazon spin would be.
Okay.
These movies about Christmas that come out before Thanksgiving have nice long tails. Similar comps like the Santa Claus 2 come with this like 25-30 opening weekend, and by the end of the run, as we get to the new year, we've grossed 120 domestic, and Amazon probably suspects that we'll see a similar trend here with Red One, 120 domestic, maybe 80, 90 overseas. All of a sudden we're sniffing 250-ish. Who cares? Because it's going to get dumped on Prime. That would be the spin. But let's break it down for 1 second. The additional thing that they would say is MGM greenlit this movie before Amazon bought them, and it was made for streaming. So when a movie is paid for on a streaming model, the talent doesn't participate in any back end points or derivatives. So it's all paid up front. So the $50 million that Rock was paid for this movie was because it wasn't, oh, Rock, we'll give you 25 and then you get whatever, 5%, 10% on the back end of theatrical distribution. It's everything up front. So Lucy Liu, Rock, Simmons, Kiernan Shirpka.
Same reason that Pitt and Clooney got 45 for Wolves is because that's all they're getting. They're not getting back end points. They're not.
Rock's only getting 50.
Right. So all the money's up front. So the streaming budgets are always going to look inflated relative to traditional studio budgets.
Right. But if you release in a theatrical environment, then you get judged on a theatrical sort of that's how you get judged. And Brett, I saw this movie. Not only does it not look like it cost $250 million, if you told me this movie cost $100 million, I would say to you, they should have done it for 75. This thing really looks terrible. I'll talk more in my review about some of the areas they might have spent on, but this movie is like watching Hollywood studio graft in action. And if Amazon wants to be serious movie studio, you can't have these massively inflated streaming titles come out and you just kind of like brush it off and say it's all marketing, it's all Prime. That's just fine. That's just not sustainable model. There's real stakes here. I know Amazon has a lot more revenue streams, and just like them and Apple are tech companies that have movie studios, unlike the other players in the space. But I think that then play in the space. If you're doing it, then do it. Don't hire a bunch of big names and then all your big names are just going to run your studio shittily. I get it. You pay them on the streaming model. You paid it up front. But the movie looked like dog shit, Brett. It was kind of like a disgrace.
We can't forget that, because I think the thing is, we can't get too lost in the sort of Moneyball metrics of all of this, because sure, Amazon spending $250 on a movie that's going to like lead their streaming platform for the next 3 months is very different than Warner Brothers spending $250 million on a like theatrical wide release movie. Sure. But the bottom line is what you said. with all of Amazon's spin around this, and actually this went
Actually, it's
well.
good.
Actually, this went great. The bottom line is y'all spent $250 million on Red One. That's the bottom line. And that is way too much money to spend on Red One. You shouldn't have spent a dime on it to begin with. You definitely shouldn't have spent $250 million. And sure, they inherited it from MGM, but Jesus, there must have been a point where they could have reduced or managed costs a little bit.
Right. I don't know.
No. It's it's the real I mean, the best thing that happened to Amazon is that we're not going to be talking about this as the biggest flop of the year, which is probably how we should be talking about it.
But what I'm saying is like it probably won't be.
It won't be, but
it's just going to be really bad.
Yes.
Not like not Joker 2.
But if you simplify it to that simple statement, you spent $250 million on Red One. That's a problem. I don't care how you spin it. That is a problem for the future of you as a movie studio. That's a problem.
I don't care how you spin it. That's ugly.
Yeah, you can't spin your way out of that one.
There's plenty. Like, and then if you see the movie, and you're like, all right, talent cost $150, fine. Like, can we just spend $50 million to make the movie? Like, it looks like a green screen monstrosity from the past. It doesn't look cutting edge or intriguing in any way. Nothing looks sharp or developed. The whole world that they thought they were building yields nothing.
Because the idea was this was going to be the beginning of a franchise. Like
obviously.
The Santa Claus, sort of a holiday franchise. There's no way that happens now, right? I mean, there's no way.
Were you kidding?
Yeah.
No fucking
There's
shot.
no way.
But when you watch it, it's a very obviously
Has that
an
ambition.
IP play.
Okay.
Santa Claus, I guess we're getting into it. Santa Claus is
Let's hold up on the review.
All
Let's
right.
hold
We'll
up on the
hold
review.
off
Yeah,
on
because
it.
we got
We'll
a few
talk more
more
about Red
financial
One.
things to go on. But
Guys,
Joe
I can't wait to
bravely,
kinda-
courageously
Thank
saw
you.
Red One in theaters.
I know.
I said, I'm sorry, I can't do
Well,
it.
you took on a bunch of streaming
I did.
titles this
I did.
week,
We
which
took
was
some
nice
bullets.
of you.
We
Except
took
like
some bullets.
I also saw a streaming title.
Yes.
Just like I had to like go to the IMAX movie theater.
You had to
watch
you had
it.
to go
Yeah.
out of your house
Yeah,
to see
right.
it. I got to sit on
You got
my
right.
couch and watch mine. Really quickly, let's talk some projections, because the big story in the box office this week is not going to be found on these numbers here, because it's all about what's coming up. Next, this weekend, opening tonight, we have Wicked and Gladiator 2, and then next weekend for the holiday, we have Moana 2. This is going to be the biggest 2 weekends, the biggest two weekends of the year of 2024. I mean, there's no way it's not. I mean, Wicked, Gladiator 2, and Moana 2 is a massive 1-2 weekend punch. So let's look at what these movies are projecting at and give our predictions on where they're going to end up. Right now, Wicked is projected to do 100 to 110 million opening weekend domestic.
Let's go Wicked.
Gladiator 2, which opened internationally last week and did 100 million internationally, which is Paramount's biggest international opening for an R-rated movie ever, and Ridley Scott's biggest international opening ever.
Wow.
And that dude's done some big movies before.
I've heard.
So it opened 100 million internationally. It's projected to do 65 million domestic this
That's
weekend.
great.
And then Moana 2, Thanksgiving holiday, 5-day holiday weekend, is predicted to do 130 to 150, which would make it one of the top 3 biggest opening weekends of the year. What do you think, Joe? One at a time. Where do you see? Are these movies going to hit their projections, exceed, or not hit their projections?
They'll all hit their projections, and if Mustafa hits its projections, then the first year Bob Iger was fully back at the helm, that's $4 billion earners for Disney.
Yeah, Disney.
So not only is Disney's movie
They're
business doing tremendously, but their streaming service is finally profitable. I know they have 7 years of debt to recoup, but regardless, this quarter was profitable. Huge news at Disney. So that's the first thing I see. Second thing I see, I love that Gladiators, what is that, 1991 it won Best Picture, 1998, whatever.
2000.
Okay, 2000.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so 25 years ago.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
An IP from 25 years ago playing that hard internationally is very interesting and intriguing. And then, it's going to do great domestically. 65, we've been paying attention to these returns all year, Brett. Like, that's nothing to sneeze at all. That's a
big.
tremendous
That's a big
success.
weekend in 2024.
That's awesome. And you're up against Wicked, which is going to do gangbusters.
Yeah.
My last little thing to think about here, dude, Wicked's going to be huge. This is the buzziest thing. This reminds me of Barbie.
Yeah, it does.
It's like Barbie level, everybody that is like into Wicked.
We were up at City Walk this week. They're preparing like there's going to be a tornado. Like it's like there's like fencing for the lines and every Wicked posters everywhere and everything cross promotional green and pink and all the different stores.
I think it's cool and
Wicked's
fun.
Gonna be massive.
I don't like
Wicked's going to be massive.
I don't like love or hate Wicked. Wicked's fine, whatever. I know people in my life, my wife, my sister, are fucking obsessed with Wicked.
Yeah.
But like whatever, all of this marketing, officially, I'm excited for Wicked.
Yeah.
It's like 3
It did it.
hours
It
long and I
worked.
don't care about it.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for Wicked this week.
I told you this is all anecdotal, but it matters, I think. My wife and I were at a bar yesterday over on Ventura Boulevard right here in Studio City. And we started at the bar talking about like Wicked and how the same conversation we're having right now. Oh my gosh, the buzz is big. This movie's going to be huge. A couple sits down next to us. They don't hear our conversation. They had just come from like a preview screening of Wicked, and they were talking about Wicked. I was like, this has Barbie vibes. Real Barbie vibes. I think Wicked is going to overperform. It's at 100 to 110 projected. I think it does in the 120 to 130 range. It just feels like it's going to be a phenomenon. And when you get that feeling, we almost always see over
like
performance of the
10% of the audience is going to see it twice.
Yeah, exactly.
Like people are going to like dig it.
And then I wouldn't be surprised if Gladiator 2 slightly underperforms. I think
What
just
makes you say
because
that?
I think just because they're Wicked is like, I think we thought they would sort of work as these separate bubbles, but Wicked is just owning so much of the discourse right now. And it's like you said, even like you would, prior to this weekend, you would have been all about Gladiator 2, but like the Wicked is just, it's permeating everybody's brains, So it's like, I think it is actually swallowing up some of the energy around the Gladiator.
But we watch
release.
football.
Yes.
And the reason we mentioned is because like the ads is a big part of football, and everybody in the country, 70% of the country is watching football. So it's important what the ads are. I feel like we got like a ton of Gladiator 2 stuff, but we also got plenty of Wicked ads during the NFL games this weekend and the college games this weekend. All that's to say is what you're saying, which is, Wicked is being advertised aggressively over all quadrants, and people are going to be showing it.
Yes. I think Wicked will slightly underperform. I wouldn't be surprised if Gladiator 2 goes a little under 65, particularly because we've seen with movies like Venom, there's been a lot of movies recently where like a big international response doesn't necessarily equate to a big domestic response. We saw kind of Venom 3 killing it internationally and then doing sort of soft domestically. I wouldn't be surprised to see something similar at Gladiator 2. And then here's the big one. I think Moana 2 is going over 150 opening weekend. It's projected 130 to 150. I think it's going over 150. It's been a second since a big animated movie has come out. Because Wild Robot got a great response, but wasn't like, it's not Despicable Me 4 Inside Out 2. It's been a month or two since we've had a movie like that. So everyone's looking for something to take their kids to.
Dude.
And also I saw, what I saw? Moana, over the last 5 years, Moana is the most watched movie on Disney Plus.
That's right.
There is a massive Moana fan base out there, and they're going to come out for this thing big time.
Moana was originally slated for streaming distribution, and then Iger took it and put it in theatrical, and now he's going to get another $1 billion.
Now he's going to make $1 billion off
What
of
was
that
Chapek
decision.
doing? We don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. So make sure you tune in next week to find out how Wicked and Gladiator 2 did. But you've got our projections, and we're rarely wrong about these things.
And we're never wrong.
So you'll have to see next week if our streak continues. Let's talk about some movie news. Let me hit you with a quick hitter here. A quick hitter, which is, Joe, is there anybody busier and buzzier right now than Luca Guadagnino? This guy, I swear to God, how long is this guy's docket? Can you imagine? So he came out with Challengers and Queer this year, right? Yeah. Both big buzzy movies.
Definitely.
Indies that did. Challengers did very well. Queer is almost certain to do very well, particularly with the awards sort of buzz around Daniel Craig. Yeah. Then a couple weeks ago, we heard he's doing this American Psycho reboot. Yeah. That's in the pre-production phase. And now, Joe, this guy's doing a DC movie. He's doing a freaking comic book movie. Luca and Daniel Craig. Now, here's the weird part. They were announced this week through Deadline. It was announced that Luca is going to team up with the star of Queer again, Daniel Craig, to do a Sergeant Rock movie. Now, Sergeant Rock it's a DC character that is like a World War II Army guy. Okay. Very pro-military industrial complex, very just like wartime sort of like rah-rah American stuff. And it was they initially tried to do it with like Schwarzenegger in the 80s, which makes total sense because this is a very like, it's a character that worked in the 40s and 50s and then again in the 80s, right? With the whole kind of like the jingoism of the Rambos and the Commandos and the Predators. Yes, exactly. Yes.
That's that Schwarzenegger.
It would have worked really well in that, the 80s action hero genre. But we got Luca
Well, welcome.
and Daniel Craig doing it.
Welcome
What
to
is going on here?
Welcome to Obama's America. No, but
what is the? Are they going to do like a?
what do you mean? What's going
Would
on here?
DC let them do like? Is this the new James Gunn regime? He's going to let them just do a full crazy satirical thing, or like what are they going to do? They're not going to do like a straight faced Captain Rock adaptation, or sorry, Sergeant Rock adaptation. There's no way.
You know, when you watch, look, it's Luca is style and substance, and he's got a little bit more 60% style, 40% substance. Watching Challengers, I mean, imagine like the comic book version of like bringing your Challengers and map it onto sort of a comic book movie. That sort of the editing, the pacing.
No, you're
the
right. Challengers is almost
the
sort of
shine.
comic book movie.
It is comic booky.
Yeah,
it's sort of like panelly and
you're right.
and fraud. And
but tonally,
but
why this?
well, tonally, it's sort of the conversation we had when we heard about American Psycho, where it's like, we know the guy's smart. He probably has all these like cool angles on it. He's not like a dummy. He's not self-unaware. He must be coming at it with some sort of angle. There's no way it's totally jingoistic, but there's no way it's also like a queered satire of
right.
It's going to be
somewhere in the middle.
It'll be like maybe it'll just be like a super like sexy stylized thing, and then it sort of subverts the masculine tropes of the army by sexualizing the la la la.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Here's another
guy sucks a gun. I don't know.
Here's another
see.
big possibility. This movie never gets made.
Well, there's that too.
It's another possibility.
I don't know a lot about James Gunn other than the films that he's made and sort of hearing some interviews with him in the DC thing, but like beyond the like massive amount of like really bizarre, unsavory tweets, he seems like these days like a cool guy who'd be like, yeah, Luca Guadagnino could do a Sergeant Rock. It's like that seems like his kind of energy. Like he's just cool enough to kind of get why that'd be awesome.
It is like it does hit that sort of like early aughts edgelord thing that James Gunn sort of used to do a lot and still does a little bit. It does feel like let's do Sergeant Rock, but let's get Luca to do it.
Also, like Luca, it's sort of like he's as stylized as Zack Snyder is stylized. He's just way better and smarter and has a lot more depth. But like he's gonna bring that kind of specific stylization, colorization, the way he shoots, and just like I think it's going to be great in comic books. I hope they make the movie.
So which one would you want to see more? His Luca's American Psycho reboot or his Sergeant
Rock. I don't give a fucking shit about American Psycho. I don't care about American Psycho.
I want to see what he does with this like
I want to watch
military
him
character.
Me too. I want to watch him make a G.I. Joe movie more than I want Air.
I agree. Okay, that's what it is. It's Luca doing G.I. Joe. Luca and Daniel Craig doing G.I. Joe.
That's
Daniel Craig
is
dream. Like, man,
that's
could be
all I've ever wanted.
Actually, I'm kind of obsessed with this.
I would love that.
Yeah, I really want to see this. All right, let's really quickly. We got breaking news.
Ooh.
Breaking news today that I know you've been digging into, which is that Sony Pictures and then Legendary, the film company Legendary, which was aligned with Warner Brothers for a long time, still is on certain projects, was closely aligned with Christopher Nolan and his Batman movies. Legendary's made a lot of big stuff over Warner Brothers. Are they Dune? They worked with Dune? Yeah, they're Dune as well with Warner Brothers. So this big company, kind of like, Lionsgate level, like a mini major. And they had signed a deal with Sony, I believe in 2022, a 2-year deal, because Sony said, we want some of that Legendary magic, baby. Well, cut to 2 years later, it really didn't produce anything, and they have now decided to not renew that arrangement. Yeah. What happened here? What went wrong here between Sony and Legendary?
Legendary Pictures is a series of private equity investors put together a studio, and it's Legendary. They own valuable IP like the Godzilla and the Monster Universe movies, Godzilla and Kong. They have Dune.
They probably own because Toho owns it. They own distribution rights and all that kind of stuff.
They participate and they make in those kinds of movies. They have some valuable stuff, and they work in partnership with Warner Brothers for a long time. Then for a short stint, they went to Paramount for a while, and then they were sort of back with Warner Brothers. And they broke up because of the COVID era famous Zaslav Michigas of taking those movies out of the theaters and putting them on the Max, or back then HBO Max platform, and that was called Project Popcorn. We make fun of it all the time on
Project
this podcast.
Popcorn.
It's super funny. Anyway, the team at Legendary did not take kindly to Project popcorn. They didn't want that. That's not what they do. So they took their distribution deal over to Sony. It just didn't work out. They made the Book of Clarence with Sony distribution. They took a bath on that, lost $30 million.
Right.
Then they made The Machine with Burt Kreischer, took a bath on that, made $11 million.
Weird that this didn't work out better with these great projects that they're selecting.
Meanwhile, the stuff that had been percolating that was valuable, Dune 2, Godzilla and Kong, that was still stuff at Warner Brothers. And there's going to be Dune 3 and there's going to be Godzilla 7 and that's all going to be at Warner Brothers. So they both mutually parted ways. It's not that sexy. And basically Legendary is going to go back to Warner Brothers, people think, and just continue to distribute.
So Legendary basically just like cashed in on their brand for 2 years with Sony, gave Sony their kind of lower tier projects that they probably couldn't get made at Warner Brothers. Yeah. Sony thought, we're gonna do a partnership with Legendary, and then Legendary will do a Dune with us, and they'll do a Batman with us.
If we do a really good job, then they'll bring Godzilla here or whatever. It didn't work out. Also, Sony has new leadership from about 4 or 6 months ago, so their priorities are shifting and changing, and we've seen some of the acquisitions they've made. I think it made sense for the previous regime to have wanted to work with Legendary and Legendary to partner with Sony, but it makes just as much sense for the partnership to dissolve.
Yeah, it didn't work. It didn't work out.
Also, Legendary recently brought back all of its shares from Wanda, which is a Chinese company. A Chinese company cannot own an American company if you want to do serious M&A. So as soon as Trump won, it seems like, or like as soon as that was in the water, the Legendary team bought Wanda out of the company and now they've got a more valuable deal with Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers is in no position to buy Legendary, of course, but Zaz is very creative. And we know from the filings that he was trying to like merge Warner Brothers with Paramount. I'm sure Zaz is talking with Legendary, trying to get them not only back in the mix, but figure out how they can create like a JV or God knows what. But all I know is Legendary's cleaning itself up a little bit to participate in the M&A landscape.
Very interesting. And that's mergers and acquisitions, baby. One last news item, and then we'll move on to our movie reviews. And this is a bit of a prophecy because we do prophesy the future of Hollywood. And I want everyone to get excited and get ready because something very cool in movie land is going to be taking place over the next couple of years, and we're all going to benefit from it, baby. You know that anytime a veteran actor has a late career resurgence, we add essence to the end of their name to signify this, right? So we've had, the McConaissance when Matthew McConaughey kind of moved out of his rom-com phase into his like mud True Detective, Oscar-winning phase. There was the still ongoing the Hugh Grant essence. The Demi-essence is now happening thanks to The Substance. Well, get ready, people, for the biggest, the best late career renaissance in Hollywood history. It's starting now, and we're gonna get I'm predicting we're at least gonna get 4 or 5 years of it, baby. More if we're lucky. Get ready for the Denzel-essence, baby. Wow. Denzel Washington. And if you're saying, the Denzel-essence, Denzel never left.
That's what I'm saying.
I know. I'm the one that's been telling you to watch the Equalizer movies. I fucking know.
That's true.
But what I'm talking about here is not that. I am talking about us on the verge of maybe what will become Denzel's greatest period in his career. I'm talking about something big. I'm talking about something monumental. Let's consider the facts here. First of all, he's Gladiator 2 comes out this weekend. He's already at the top of most people's power rankings for Best Supporting Actor. Seems like he will definitely get a nomination, possibly a win. Maybe it comes down to him and Kieran Culkin. Stay tuned for the second half of the show tonight where we delve into that in more detail. So Gladiator 2 is going to be the thing that lights the spark that lights the whole keg, baby. Because then it was also announced this week that he's going to be in Black Panther 3. So Denzel's going to be in the freaking MCU, baby. He's going to do his comic book movie. That's going to expand his reach. That's going to introduce him to younger audiences who might not be familiar with Denzel.
Can you imagine not being familiar?
But
it's not their fault. Just can you imagine? That's sad.
You forget that 4 years to us now is nothing. 4 years to like a kid.
I'm not trying to shade him. I'm just trying to say, listen to this man and watch your Denzel.
But this is great because but I'm just saying he's hitting all these different quadrants. Yeah, That's why it's going to be a big, huge Denzel-essence. Okay.
What do we got coming down the pipeline?
And then he didn't forget about the moneymaker. He just announced to Esquire last week that Equalizer 4 and 5 are happening, baby. Equalizer 4 and Equalizer 5, they are freaking happening. Movie Baby's best franchise. It got the best franchise award of 2023 last year. They're doing 4 and 5. I can't believe it. So he's got Gladiator 2. He's got Black Panther 3. He's got 2 more Equalizers coming out. And something we've known about for a while that is definitely happening, Spike Lee's High Low remake. Spike Lee is remaking Akira Kurosawa's High Low, one of Kurosawa's best movies, with Denzel Washington. That's going to be huge.
That's sick.
Huge. And there was another little news item this week that Denzel and PTA, Paul Thomas Anderson, have been working on a project for like years. And maybe with the Denzel-assance, maybe, I don't know, is that PTA's next movie after Battle of Bactane Cross? He wants to work with Denzel during the Denzel-assance? Anything could happen. We're just at the beginning of this. It is going to be a big 5 years for Denzel, and I cannot freaking wait for it. I'm so excited. And I just want to say, Joe and Carson, go find this. If you can go find this clip, I would really appreciate it. The beginning of this year, before there was a trailer for Gladiator 2, before there was a promotional photo for Gladiator 2, when all we had was a log line and a brief description of Denzel's character, what did I say to you when I drafted it in our fantasy rankings? What did I say to you?
Best supporting actor.
I said Denzel's going to win Best Supporting Actor for this movie. I said that. Carson, go find it. I was the first one to say it.
Okay.
The Denzel-assance is happening, and I cannot wait. Everybody strap in. It's going to be a hell of a ride. It's going to be the best period of his career. You thought the best had already happened? And you know what really gives me confidence in this take? Because Denzel's been doing a lot of press around Gladiator 2 and has been very like candid. I love it. He mentioned that he like last year gave up drinking and that he has just been like
he's gonna live forever,
physically transformed. And he's like, he's got his energy back. He feels younger. He said, I love him for this. He was like, yeah, there was like a decade there where I was drinking like 2 bottles of wine at night. And I was like, well, you're Denzel.
Everybody has
in
a
your
decade
60s.
where you drink
It's
2
like,
bottles of
it's like,
wine.
that's
It's
don't beat yourself up.
Don't worry about
but
that.
Also, I'm glad that you are feeling good.
Me too.
You got your energy back.
I love that.
You got it all. You're ready to go because I cannot wait. I cannot wait for the Denzel-assance.
Although, don't get too fit for 4 and 5 Equalizer. I like that you're just. I like that you own that
dad
body.
Bod. We want dad bod
And for
Denzel.
4 and 5, I want you stationary and your arms out.
Because remember, the best part of Equalizer is
the best.
Yes, is that Denzel just goes,
and he has a gun. He's like,
and then 6 people fall dead.
He doesn't move.
Him.
He doesn't like.
It's great.
He doesn't like stand cool with the gun. It's just like bang, 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 bang.
Do not suddenly turn into Jason Bourne in the Equalizer movies. Okay?
No.
The whole point of the Equalizer is you
old.
don't really do the action sequences.
You just sit in a chair with a gun and go bang, 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 bang. Take down the fucking Cosa Nostra.
It's chess, not checkers, baby. All right, let's get into our new movies for this week. Next up, we're going to review this week's new releases. Red One. Small things like these, Rumours. We're also going to do some VOD streaming recommendations. And while we do try to avoid any major plot spoilers in our reviews,
I'm going to spoil Red One.
It's impossible. You can spoil Red One. Everybody's fine with that, right? Joe's going to spoil Red One. It's impossible to give an honest review of these stinking movies without talking about them in their entirety. And so if we're reviewing a movie that you don't want spoiled in the least, including Red One, we recommend that you play it safe.
There's nothing to spoil.
Put us on mute. Rejoice when we move on to the next movie. If you're watching on video, just keep an eye on the lower third. That'll tell you what movie you're reviewing. If you're catching us anywhere else on any other platform, just check the time codes in the description, baby. Red One is an action adventure. I'm just going to set it up and then hand it over to you.
Sure.
Is an action adventure Christmas fantasy comedy, all your favorite genres, written by Chris Morgan and directed by Jake Kasdan, son of Star Wars scribe and Body Heat director Lawrence Kasdan.
Yep.
A guy that I always expect more from, Jake Kasdan. And it's not just because of the lineage, but because of his incredible feature film debut all the way back in the 90s. Have you ever seen Zero Effect with Ben Stiller and Bill Pullman?
Yeah.
That movie's great.
Yeah.
That's a fun little dark indie noir.
I know.
That was his first movie.
Yeah.
He also did Walk Hard. He did Walk Hard.
I love Walk Hard.
Yeah, Walk Hard and Zero Effect.
Walk Hard's so funny.
Shows some potential.
Walk Hard's the greatest.
But there have just been too many Jumanjis.
And he made Orange County.
Okay, Orange County.
Which is like, of note.
I mean, if it's your
notable.
third best movie, though.
Yeah, it's
I
tough.
don't know.
Well, he made Bad Teacher, and he made the Jumanjis, which aren't good, but made a shit ton of money and partnered him with The Rock.
Well, look, I guess he's got he's probably got 3 mortgages. I guess he's in the phase of his career where Zero Effect didn't really happen. That version of him didn't happen. So now he does the
He
red ones and the
does Red One.
Jumanjis. All right. Well, God bless. Red One stars Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Chris Evans, Lucy Liu, and J.K. Simmons as Santa. It's about the head of North Pole Security teaming up with a notorious hacker to locate a kidnapped Santa Claus on Christmas Eve. It's supposed to be the beginning of a new holiday franchise, but those plans are now indefinitely on hold. Joe, what'd you think of Red One?
Brett, I'm officially out of the Christmas spirit.
No,
I don't have
it's not
any-
even Thanksgiving.
I'm not going to do Christmas this year.
Fuck you, Red One. Look what you did to this man.
Christmas is canceled.
He loves Christmas.
I love Christmas. Christmas is no more. In Red One, I want you to know for the entire runtime, they don't even play any Christmas music. Not once. The entire time. It's a Christmas movie. Okay, so in this movie, J.K.
I feel like that's against the rules.
It's insane.
Aren't there
It's also-
government regulations to protect against that?
It's also a waste of it's a bad movie, right? Just like use beloved Christmas music to elevate the terrible action sequence or whatever. It doesn't matter. J.K. Simmons plays like a buff Silicon Valley Santa Claus in this movie. He lives in the North Pole is Blade Runner town. And at the top, I swear to you, Brett, and at the top of Stark Industries in the middle of Blade Runner town, aka the North Pole, is Santa's gigantic Stark Industries workshop. And at the very top in the penthouse, that's where Santa Claus works in his like giant modern sort of like residence. And he has like a big gym there and he's always pumping iron. And he has to get like physically ready for the the massive undertaking of Christmas.
J.K. Simmons did get ripped for this.
J.K. Simmons did get ripped. J.K. Simmons, if you're going to cast like a militarized Santa Claus, he's able to retain like a shred of, Santa's joy, right?
Yeah,
like remember Santa Claus from Christmas? We're all familiar with like the joy that's supposed to be inherent with that character. But yeah, so he saves a shred of that, but this movie is ugly.
Okay.
Visually and tonally, this movie is crass.
Really?
It's a
shame on you.
It's a Christmas movie with Santa Claus in it, so it's like kids are gonna watch it.
Yeah.
And I'm not like you. I don't. It's when your movie's about Christmas, it's like about Santa Claus, and it's like it's a rescue Santa Claus movie. Doesn't need the word shit.
Yeah.
Doesn't need like balls
I
getting
like
crushed.
This. I like this. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. We're not on Fox News complaining about the corruption of culture. This is, us. If if Joe's saying this, he means it's not being used.
If this was
it's not being done well.
If this was a Christmas movie where it was like, about like adults and a romance or a Christmas time, well, that's a totally different bag. This is a
good point.
This is like The Rock, has to go save Santa Claus who got kidnapped. Anyway, like a lot of like nuts jokes and like shithead shit, and it's like
calm down.
None of them are landing. It's not like it's making any like it's not like it's helping anything.
It's just like sickeningly hollow.
It's just like sucking the life out. It's so weird. So Santa's like Tony Stark, Jeff Bezos.
Cool.
And the movie's ugly, and the North Pole is like a cyberpunk shithole,
Ew.
like Blade Runner. I swear to you, Brett, it's so odd. The Rock works for
Dude, cyberpunk is like the refuge of cowards. It's
so
like
weird. So weird. It's like this big like green screen.
It's become that.
North Pole.
I love the
sucks.
great works of cyberpunk, but that aesthetic is just a refuge for the unoriginal.
This is
now.
so weird. It's so weird. So The Rock works for the ELF. Don't call them ELF.
Oh God.
It's a lot of that.
Oh God.
But also not enough of that.
Yeah.
It's like
I love acronym comedy. Isn't acronym comedy fun?
Yeah. The Rock does all the jokes you've seen The Rock do. It's awful. Chris Evans, he is offensively uncharismatic.
Yeah,
always has been.
He's a fraud.
He's the worst. Chris, I thought you said you were going to retire. What happened to that?
It's time.
He was like, I'm going to retire from acting. I don't want to do Marvel movies anymore. It's like he didn't go do like The Wind That Shakes the Barley. Like he went and did Red fucking One. Just retire, you piece of shit.
Also, what happened to your
I don't understand.
Wasn't he going to do a big like reaching across the aisle political
he is
thing?
so awful. In this movie, he plays like a lovable thief, like a really smart one.
Yeah.
He's the greatest hacker in the world, and he's really good at it. He's
be a good
so unfunny.
A good
and
short
bad.
film is Chris Evans trying to reach across the aisle, and then he gets like drawn and quartered because the aisles are too separate. They're too far apart. Isn't that a great idea?
That's a great idea. Chris, he spends the whole movie going, "Wait, what?"
Oh God.
It's a wait what movie
God.
for 2.5 hours.
It's like Mia Goth's whole performance.
It's insanely
in,
alienating. This
X.
more alienating this film
Huh?
than anything Breck could have ever imagined. This movie, like I had no way of accessing any of this movie. So in the first 5 to 10 minutes, you think they spent like $50 million in development with like world building. Like this movie is like, world builders strike again. Here they go, overthinking Santa Claus. So every single thing's like the sled now is like the Batmobile, and like the reindeers are super big. And in the North Pole, the energy is actually coming from Santa because he's part of a mythical beast collective, and Lucy Liu's like the Nick Fury of the mythical beasts. And they have to, and it's all like they're all like the war on terror for like the Tooth Fairy and shit. Nick Kroll makes a comedic appearance in this movie. Yikes! Nick Kroll in this movie. He is. It's like he's taking a paycheck. That's fine, but at a certain point, like
how much do you think? $2 million, $3 million,
whatever.
They were just handing out money like it was candy.
He could have done a different piece of shit movie for $2 million. Like this one was really low. Hated, and he's like doing like funny faces and stuff. It's like.
Yikes.
When I was growing up, we had Robin Williams.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The kids these days have fucking Red One and Nick Kroll.
2022 was a tough time. Remember, maybe it would be different if they filmed it now.
Yeah. Also, this movie, you brought up the IMAX anecdote earlier. Like Rock's like, when they put this thing in IMAX,
now
it's gonna blow your mind.
Oppenheimer's fine. Oppenheimer's good. When they put Red One on IMAX, game over.
So I watched it on IMAX. Was not a single frame was shot with an IMAX camera. So what it was just a gigantic digital projection in an IMAX theater. It wasn't anything special.
Well, because apparently the movie was already in principal photography when Rock had his like IMAX epiphany.
It's just like they wanted the big movie distributed in IMAX.
So I think they like had to jerry
dude.
rig some IMAX thing while they were making the movie already, just to satisfy the Rock because he wanted to be bigger than Oppenheimer.
Like, IMAX tickets are more expensive than the regular screen. So like they push movies into IMAX, and IMAX is like a business unto itself. AMC owns a large portion of the IMAX screens, but IMAX can distribute a large portion of their own. So distribution's very interesting. So I'm sure this was just like a promotional thing The Rock was doing in partnership with IMAX for Red One.
Well, it gave us one of the great.
It's the funniest quote ever.
Gave us one of the great
The
quotes
Rock
of all time.
saw Oppenheimer and said, "We gotta do this for Red One."
Yeah.
And then the last thing, Brett, is like when the people complain about AI, tell them don't worry about it, because we had already acquiesced our domain to the AI before AI came. Like Red One, there's nothing human about it, and it's all made by humans. There's no AI. There's nothing human about it. It's very like, I mean, thematically, I'm sure like Think Peace Nation on like Santa's Amazon now. Just like imagine the Think Peace Nation on that you could do on this. I'm not going to do that right now, but like this movie's ugly. It's garish. It's crude. It's hateful. It's anti-Christmas. It makes Santa Claus like not like Santa Claus is just supposed to be nice to everybody and give everyone gifts and like be joy incarnate. And I don't know why it has to be anything other than that. I hated this movie. Just like let the AI fucking rain terror upon us. We gave up. Like, why wouldn't the AI looks at what we've done and they go, well, for $250 million, I could just do this for free.
When the future people look back at the wreckage of this civilization, they will say they ended themselves before AI.
Yeah,
it wasn't AI. No. It wasn't some battle. No. They already.
Red One is
was already over.
Red One is like Amazon down on its knees begging God to let AI come and fucking eviscerate us. That's what Red One is.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is intentional.
It's
like a producer situation.
Please.
It's like Bezos is like, oh, if I just like wreck, it's like Elon wrecking Twitter. It's like, if I just wreck the thing, then in the wreckage, I can become powerful in the wreckage.
Maybe.
Now, don't fear, though, people, because all hope is not lost. It's not just Red Ones out there.
Oh, yeah. What else happened?
I saw some good movies this week. I want to talk to you first, Joe, about small things like these. Now, Joe, if you are our resident horror movie correspondent, as you are, I would like to start branding myself as our resident sad bastard correspondent, because Jesus, Joe, I've been seeing some sad movies lately.
About some bastards.
Last week, well, I'm the bastard.
Oh, you're the
I don't
bastard.
want to. No. Okay. Yeah, the people in the movie aren't sad. I'm sad bastard because I go to sad movies.
Got it.
Last week it was We Live in Time. This week, Small Things Like These. I Need Help, Joe. I'm drowning in my own tears. Small Things Like These is a historical drama directed by Tim Malance, who has mostly worked in TV on shows like Peaky Blinders and one of my favorites, The Terror.
Nice.
The script was written by Irish playwright Enda Walsh, based on the 2021 novel by Irish writer Claire Keegan. And it's one of those movies where in the opening production credits, it's like the Irish Film Council in this. It was a very national production,
Cool.
national Irish production, which is always cool to see. Those countries that have like a vibrant arts funding and arts endowments.
Well, we do have Red One.
Sure. Now, if you've seen Peter Mullen's excellent movie, The Magdalene Sisters from 2002, you know about the historical context of Small Things Like These. If you don't, I can summarize it very quickly. There were these things in Ireland called the Magdalene Asylums. They were Catholic-run institutions that were active from the 18th century all the way up to 1996, which is fucking crazy. Their ostensible purpose was to house fallen women, to provide sanctuary to fallen women. But in practice, they became these abusive, repressive death factories where essentially young women who got pregnant outside of marriage were sent to these places to be morally rehabilitated. And what happened is they would be violently abused, demeaned, humiliated, made to work for no pay, their freedom stripped from them, basically imprisoned without a trial. And then their babies, when they had their children, were adopted out to other families, and they weren't allowed to keep their own babies.
If I may,
yeah,
that's
insane.
That's crazy.
It's fucking insane. It's one of these chapters in history, like, I don't know, like Japanese internment camps or something, where you read about it and you're like, wait, but what? Like, how?
But that
like,
that was fucked up. But that was like 3 to 5 years during World War II.
No, very
like,
true. This was
you just had like
centuries.
150 years
yes,
of
no.
like what the fuck?
I don't want to compare tragedies. Just like one of those things where you read about and you're like, what the fuck? How did this? But this is what Small Things Like These looks at is kind of how, why, how does this happen in the midst of a otherwise nice little small town? How do you have a Magdalene institution there? And because the other movie I talked about, Peter Mullen's The Magdalene Sisters, which I would definitely check out, is more of like a big, huge historical kind of period piece about the Magdalene asylums and about the women who went there and their stories and the things that happened. It's a very big movie. Small Things Like These is a much smaller movie, a much quieter movie, and it happens kind of like in the shadow of a Magdalene institution rather than kind of inside the depths of it. I found this movie to be very powerful, very affecting, definitely worth your time. It stars, speaking of Oppenheimer, Cillian Murphy, coming off his big win as a coal merchant in this small-ish Irish town, and he is just the most quiet, unassuming guy you could ever imagine. He delivers the coal around town, he goes home to his family, he keeps to himself. But then two things happen that throw his entire life into crisis.
What?
One, he discovers that this Magdalene institution in town, which he delivers coal to, has been imprisoning one of these fallen women in his coal shed overnight. So one morning he comes very early to deliver the coal because he can't sleep, and then he finds this girl like locked in there. And then he comes back the next day and same thing. So he sort of starts to find out the horrible, despicable things going on inside this otherwise sort of closed, walled off religious institution. And then two, he starts to confront some things from his own past that make this discovery very personal to him, and something that even the quietest guy in the town can't ignore. This brings him into conflict with Emily Watson. We get a great Emily Watson performance in this movie. She plays the chilling, autocratic Mother Superior who will do whatever she can to keep these injustices a secret, and she plays the Mother Superior like she's in a Scorsese movie. It's amazing. She plays the Mother Superior as like a mob boss, and it's amazing. It's fantastic. But Murphy is the heart and soul of the movie. He gives a really stunning performance here and elevates this movie from just a period piece to, I think, what is I found it to be a very timely movie, a kind of strikingly timely movie, because it is about personal responsibility in the face of power and corruption at the highest levels. It asks the question that I think a lot of people are asking right now and have been asking over the last, however many years, which is like, what is the responsibility of just a guy who delivers coal in town and keeps to himself and raises his family and is already tired and stressed from just his normal life? What is his responsibility when faced with this just massively impossible Catholic power corruption, prison? Like, what do you do?
What's he do?
Are you supposed to do anything? Can you do anything?
Does he do something?
And everybody in his life is telling him, don't do anything,
Yeah.
don't do anything, don't do anything. And Killian's performance is so good. He has just, at this point in his career, he has just so many like veteran moves, so many like masterful moves. You know, when like Albert Pujols in season 20 on like one leg would just sort of like slap a single and you're like, that's a veteran move. Right. He has so many veteran moves in this movie. And the one that I really liked is he does this thing from the very first scene where he's like avoiding eye contact with everybody else in the scene, almost as like a tick. Like he's just one of these guys who like doesn't make eye contact. And it's enough that you notice it, but not so much that it feels unrealistic. And as the movie develops, that little tick becomes this incredible sort of double meaning symbol where it's personally a result of his own childhood trauma, you kind of find out. But then it's also this incredible symbol of a town where you are supposed to look the other way. You're supposed to not look things in the eye. You're supposed to ignore. You're supposed to not, that's not my business. So it's just such a masterful little trick that he does that really gives the movie that added texture and richness and depth. He is, I sum this movie up as what if Taxi Driver starred the world's meekest man, because you get this just shy every guy who doesn't want anything to do with any problems, and then he has to confront this great evil, and he
goes there at the end. You compared to Taxi Driver, so he goes in there.
He confronts the evil. I will not say to what extent. You don't get a full Taxi Driver ending, but he
makes a choice.
He makes a choice.
Okay,
it sounds
very. Is it good?
It's very good. It's not a perfect movie. A couple things that I didn't like about it. I love my slow cinema.
Oh, for sure.
But there's a limit, Joe.
Uh-oh.
This movie could have moved a little faster. It's a little too slow at times, and it doesn't.
Top.
There's a lot of delivering the coal around town, which I actually loved. I loved watching him deliver the coal, but it doesn't. It's like a little too slow at times, with not enough happening to offset the slowness.
Do conversations kind of happen by candlelight?
There's not a whole lot of dialogue. There's a lot of quietness, a lot of Cillian alone. Killian alone. I'm sorry. That's my. I keep anglicizing that.
God,
C.
you hate the Irish. Can you please honor them?
I'm so sorry. Killian, hard C. And the hard C is so much cooler than the soft C. Killian. But the movie does really pick up steam in its closing section. It has a great sort of final 30 minutes, and overall, I'd highly recommend it. Okay. Now, let's talk about Rumours, written and directed by avant-garde Canadian auteur Guy Maddin, also co-written and co-directed by his creative partners Evan Johnson and Galen Johnson.
Guys.
This movie stars Cate Blanchett and an incredible supporting cast of great character actors. Too many to name. Go look them up. Also, we get Alicia Vikander in a kind of cameo. Rumours takes place at the annual G7 conference. It's a big, trippy, crazy political satire movie. It takes place at the G7, where the leaders of some of the world's largest economies meet to plan the future of global capitalism. You got Cate Blanchett doing Angela Merkel. You got a Justin Trudeau. You got Charles Dance with a British accent as the president of the United States doing sort of Biden.
He's like falling asleep.
But in Rumours, all these leaders get lost in the woods while trying to compose a joint statement on some unspecified global crisis, and they have to work together to return to civilization, fighting against fog, bizarre ailments, a giant glowing brain in the woods, undead bog creatures, and other challenges. It's a Guy Maddin movie, baby. Joe, what'd you think of Rumours?
I didn't love Rumours. I really had trouble getting into it. A lot of things up top that I like I liked all the acting, and the writing was jaunty, and it would remind you sort of a broad farce, like an ensemble farce, and it was charming in that respect. And I found the horror elements and the plotting, charming in fits and starts. But I didn't think this movie was particularly Guy Maddin-y. It didn't look. I've only seen My Winnipeg, so when you say Guy Maddin avant-garde to me, I think of that kind of a thing, like collage-y documentary kind of thing.
It's not that.
It's not that at all.
It looks like a movie. It looks more like a movie than other Guy Maddin movies.
Like a small movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't really. So I didn't really get any Guy Maddin.
Tonally, though,
I guess tonally it was jaunty and charming in spots. And I think political satire is hard. We're all live in a Iannucci'd existing world, and then B, we all get inundated with politics, and it's just kind of hard to find a new tone that really is biting but also sort of fun. And the movie didn't have a ton of teeth, and it was just sort of a fun fuck around. I couldn't get into it, and it was okay.
Yeah. I'm reminded of our reviews of The Substance, but with the roles
Okay.
reversed. Because the reason I didn't like The Substance, because I was expecting a lot more kind of message and substance,
Right.
and you just were like, no, it's just a fun body horror thing. And
Right.
similarly with Rumours, I agree. Ultimately, despite all the sound and fury, I don't think this movie has a whole lot to say about politics or the moment or anything. But I really enjoyed it for a simple reason. It really made me laugh. I just thought it was really funny. I thought it was a really funny, weird movie. All the gags cracked me up. I will forever hear the sound of the Canadian Prime Minister like snapping the condom off after he has sex with
So
Kate Blanchett in the
gross,
woods.
yeah.
It's like it's the best. It's like the old movie thing where they go in to kiss and then you cut to them in the bed afterwards. But in this case,
He was
just
funny.
he's so the Justin Trudeau guy with the top knot
was
is
really
so funny.
Yeah.
It's so funny. But he just like snaps this condom off and then just like callously like tosses it into the woods. Oh, it just cracked me up. I thought the depiction of the world leaders was hilarious. They are these like gently idiotic, like deeply vulnerable people, and they're like soap opera characters almost. Like they are so unprepared for the enormity of their jobs, and they are so immersed and obsessed with like tiny little grievances and insecurities. I thought they were very, very funny, and the actors made it even funnier by giving these like intense, dedicated performances, doing that thing I
the
love where
actors
you
were
take
really
like
funny.
you take like a silly thing seriously.
Yeah.
I think creates really great comedy. So I had a lot of fun in this movie. I laughed a lot. I did like the style and the tone of it. It is very different from what you might know of Guy Madden if you've seen Saddest Music in the World or My Winnipeg or some of these older movies that he's done. It's initially you want to compare it to Lord of the Flies because it's like civilized people descending into chaos and barbarism out in the woods. But I actually think the better comparison is like Midsummer Night's Dream because of the way it's shot. Because even though the characters are descending into this sort of like muddy, brutal survivalism, and it's all about like the collapse of civilization all around them, it is filmed in this like dreamy, surreal way, and the woods are accented with these like neon lights, and the fog is rolling around, and it was almost like a Midsummer Night's Dream, just like a mystical descent into the woods for one night. And
I think on purpose, man.
Yes, right.
Sure.
It really feels like that. And I like that tone. I thought that was
Me
a
too.
very fun tone for this plot and a very interesting pairing of a political satire with this sort of dreamy, almost pagan sort of like older form of storytelling. Like I said, I don't really think the movie has a whole lot to say about our current moment ultimately. The point, as I think with a lot of Guy Madden movies, and this is the commonality, is it's just kind of about the experience of watching the movie. It's just like a stylish, interesting, avant-garde kind of experience.
So Canadian.
It's so Canadian,
it's just
so
like
deeply
low
Canadian.
stakes.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like, here's a fun thing.
it's like
Maybe you like it.
It's
very
like Peter
Canadian.
Greenaway if the humor was just like a little more juvenile. Like if the humor was a little more kind of like
That's not really my feeling.
no.
I just can't get there, man. I'm sorry. With the Greenaway comps.
I'm not
going to get
You
there.
always hold me to like the letter of my comps. I'm just giving people ballpark comparisons. You always like Guy Madden is not Peter Greenaway. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying he is like it's if you're looking for a comp, it is Greenaway with like a sort of like with like a more like toilet sense of humor. is Guy
very
Madden.
Canada.
Yeah.
Just like Strange Brew meets Draftsman Contract.
All right,
I feel that.
One very, very funny thing though, that pedophile text bot is very funny.
That was funny.
Very funny. The way that they like reconnect with society and kind of get their phones working again is at some point like all the world governments had combined to create this like AI that was used to like target potential pedophiles. So it's an AI that like texts your phone as though it's a young kid, and it's trying to like lure. It's like To Catch a Predator, trying to like lure you into. And for some reason, like all the world governments teamed up to create this AI, and then the AI is what starts texting them out in the woods, and that's what sort of draws them back into civilization. And so the Justin Trudeau character is like texting with this pedophile text bot, and they're being like, you have to like act like you're interested, or it won't talk back. That's hilarious.
It was
That's
funny.
very funny.
It was funny. I liked it.
I liked Rumours. It was me and one other guy alone in the theater, and we were laughing our asses off.
I love that for you guys.
All right. Let's do, last but not least, let's do some quick streaming VOD reviews, Joe, because I went deep on streaming this week.
Tell me.
Because I know the holidays are coming up, and you might not, you should go out to the theaters for the big ones and for some of your local indies. But look, you're also going to be wanting some stuff to watch at the house, right? So I said, why not? Let me dig in. Let me dig into stuff that was like limited theatrical release that I haven't seen yet, straight to streaming that I haven't seen yet. Let me give you some takes. And these are the 4 movies I watched on streaming this week, Joe. We've got The Outrun, Apartment 7A, the Rosemary's Baby prequel, My Old Ass, and Anna Kendrick's directorial debut, Woman of the Hour. I'm going to go through and review each one and give you a yes, meaning watch it, a no, don't watch it, or a maybe. You decide. Maybe.
Look, you're a good guy. You're not going to say I'm a hero, but I'm going to say it for you. Hey, all 4 of those movies were directed by women. Is that not true? Brett's a hero. There you go.
Well, I didn't plan it. They're just
on streaming.
Yeah. I want to start with an emphatic yes for The Outrun.
Bang.
Joe,
Bang.
I had heard that Saoirse Ronan was great in this. She is.
Me too.
I was not prepared for how good this freaking movie is, Joe.
I love
the movie around her performance is so good. The performance is great. The movie itself is great. The Outrun, I'm going to say it, The Outrun is the most slept on movie of 2024, baby. It is the most underrated, the most under the radar. More people should be talking about it.
Bang.
It's a really, really good movie. It's in the running for my end of year top 10. I loved it. I highly recommend it.
Bang.
It is one of the most realistic, heartbreaking depictions of addiction you'll ever see in a movie with a stunning central performance. But
am I going to cry?
You'll cry, but you're also gonna have some fun in this movie because it's the way that the director Nora Fingscheidt weaves this incredible cinematic aesthetic around the performance and creates such an incredible sense of place and tone. That's what takes The Outrun to the next level. I never in my life thought I would know as much about the Orkney Islands in Scotland as I do now, but I'm glad I do because this movie has an incredible sense of place. It's so specific and unique, but also resonant around these themes of addiction and finding yourself and getting kind of adrift and lost and then reconnecting with your roots. The movie follows Saoirse Ronan, as she returns home to the Orkney Islands after crashing out hard in London and going to rehab for alcohol addiction. She returns to the islands to continue her recovery, rebuild her life. And the central question that she has to confront is something that she says to a fellow addict in the movie, and it's heartbreaking, and it's so sad, and it just is an indication of how kind of real this movie is. She says to this person, I can't be happy sober. My problem is I just cannot be happy sober. I don't know how to do it. And then the movie is about her burrowing deeper and deeper into the mystical ecology of the Orkney Islands as a way of finding a new way to be happy. And she gets involved with these local preservation and environmental groups. She discovers a new part of herself and a new chapter to her life at her home, in her homeland. But it also
sounds beautiful, Brett.
It's also very realistic. So you're going to have relapses. It's a cycle. It's a process. It is not it's a movie that ends hopefully, but is not a movie that is trying to just sort of put a rosy tint on life. It is poetic and expressionistic. It's surreal at times. It does magical realism really well. It reminded me a lot of Alistair Walker's La Chimera, which we love, in the way that it's constantly juggling various stylistic devices, but making them all sort of hang together beautifully. I strongly recommend The Outrun. Yes.
That sounded really good.
Right? It's great. Watch The Outrun.
That was a good review.
Apartment 7A. This is the movie that we found out about months ago, and we were like, they made a Rosemary's Baby prequel, and it stars Julia Garner and Diane Wiest?
Sounds great.
And it's going straight to streaming? We're not getting a theatrical release?
How was it?
Well, I'll tell you, Joe. Okay. What happened is that the movie's not very good, is what happened. That's why I went straight to streaming.
That sucks.
The script, but hold on.
Okay.
The script we'll start with the bad news. The script is not good. It's overwritten and underwritten at the same time. It's like too much blah stuff and not enough subtext. And it's just like, I'm not an idiot. Can you just like do a movie, please? Like, what's happening here? But the movie is also not terrible. Okay. It's not terrible. And it actually has a couple great moments in it, which is it's a very sort of just like all over the place movie, because as bad as the script is and the characters are not very well done, it has like a lot of fun satanic stuff in it. I think it's got the best jump scare of the year, Joe. You watch it and tell me which jump scare you think I'm talking about.
Better than Smile 2?
I think you'll know. Better than Smile 2. I knew you were going to say that. Better than Smile 2, because it's a like undersold jump scare. It's a jump scare that like gets in your bones.
Oh,
like,
I love
it's so
that.
good.
That's good, Brett.
It's a movie that oscillates wildly between these like kind of stunning stylistic set pieces and then these just god awful plotting dialogue scenes. It's also like kind of wacky in moments. I don't know, it's a weird movie, even though it's a direct prequel to Rosemary's Baby with overlapping characters. It like repeats all the beats of Rosemary's Baby, but like not as good and also wackier. It's a weird movie. It's a weird movie. So that's why I'm gonna give it, Joe. I'm gonna give it a maybe.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it a maybe. And here's how you know whether or not you should watch Apartment 7A. I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna give you a simple survey.
Okay.
If you are a person that watches less than 5 movies a week, there is no reason for you to ever watch Apartment 7A. There's a lot of other movies for you to watch. Sounds like you have better stuff to do with your time. Do not watch Apartment 7A. Now, if you are someone who watches more than 5 movies a week, you should watch Apartment 7A tomorrow. Did you hear what I said? They made a Rosemary's Baby prequel that is worse than the original, but also kind of wackier and has like some good moments, but it's also really bad. Go watch this movie. Run. Yeah. Go watch it.
Note taken.
So maybe depending on how that goes. Woman of the Hour. Okay, we're getting there. Woman of the Hour. This is Anna Kendrick's directorial debut.
Yeesh.
This gets a big, as big as the yes was for the Outrun, that's how big the no is for Woman of the Hour.
Oh, no.
Joe, Anna Kendrick took what is a pretty, I think is an interesting premise. It's the true story of a serial killer who ended up on the dating game.
It's a true story?
It's a true story. The serial killer ended up on the dating game. And I think the intent of the movie was to sort of use that fun central premise as a way of exploring America's culture of violence against women kind of at all levels and in showbiz and out of showbiz. So an interesting premise, a challenging premise, a hard movie to make. And Kendrick, there's no way around it, just fucking fumbles that premise fumbles so hard, Joe. Fumbles so hard it's uncomfortable to watch. Okay. This is... The direction and the writing are clunky. The production design and the costumes are like phoned in. Like it's the most aesthetically uninspired version of the 60s you're ever going to see. Man. It's bizarre. It's so weird. It's the 60s. Have some fun, but also don't make it look like Party City people. Like it's the 60s. Do the 60s. You have an opportunity here and you're completely blowing it. Pete Holmes is in this. That's fun. I guess he's getting cast and stuff now. Anna Kendrick fucks Pete Holmes. So great. Yikes. Thanks for that. Everything thematic in the movie. I was constantly asking myself, like, are you stupid or do you think I'm stupid? Like, are you like, because everything is so dumbed down. Both. It is like, it's both. It's like feminism for dummies, showbiz satire for dummies, toxic masculinity for dummies. It's like themes for people who have never encountered a theme before in their life. It's like the most surface sort of caricatured version of these themes with no depth or kind of subtlety to the way they're explored. Sure. And I was like, what is going on here? What's happening? And then Anna enters the movie. She stars in the movie, but she doesn't come in immediately. She comes in kind of, after we've already met the serial killer. More on that in a second. And then when she started giving her performance, I realized, I was like, oh, I think Anna did too many commercials. I think Anna got stuck in commercial spokesperson because you always see her doing whatever, Old Navy, Progressive, Capital One.
I don't know if that's
right?
true,
yes,
but
like, whatever.
True.
You always see her doing big brand commercials, and she's doing her like whip smart kind of like thing, and it's like, and it's working for the commercial, and it's fine.
Your words.
Sorry,
go ahead. I'm listening. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't remotely agree with that, but I like need it as to like set up the next point of my argument.
Right, she's killing it in these commercials.
Yeah, I don't think she's great in the Capital One commercials, but she's doing a commercial. She's doing a commercial. It's like that was a very good. That was a commercial, very good commercial. Yeah. All right, I think she got stuck in that mode though, because weirdly in this movie the whole movie should like feel darker. It should feel, there should be more dread. I mean, serial killer, violence against women. There should be more of a darkness to it. And there's this weird Anna Kendrick like lightness and frivolity to the whole thing that's like bizarre tonally. And everything from the performances to the production design to the direction, everything feels like commercial level quality. It doesn't feel like movie level quality. The guy that plays the serial killer, he's in It Follows. I don't think he's a bad actor, but he's giving a really bad performance in this movie. I don't know whose fault it is. It's hard to tell, but it's just a bad performance. And the big problem, the big kind of like cardinal sin of the movie is that there is so much stuff with the serial killer in it. He's like a main character and he's on screen so much of the movie. And every time a new scene starts and you realize you're about to get another like 5-minute scene with the serial killer, you're like, no, less of the serial killer, not more of the serial killer. The spell is broken. Like, this isn't working for the movie. This guy is, the more I see of him, the less scary he is, the less ominous he is, the less impactful he is. Why are you giving us more? Give us less. It's just stuff like that where all of our instincts seem off. I'm sorry, it's just, and there's like lazy, why I feel, look, I'm picking on this movie, but the reason I feel confident picking on this movie is because it's lazy and it's phoned in. There are these like anachronisms, Joe. There's a scene in the dating game sequence where the serial killer, he's on the dating game show and he gives like a good answer to one of Anna's questions and the audience is like applauding. And then Anna goes, yeah. She goes, we love that. We love that. We love that. And I was like, this is the 60s. I don't think like that phrasing will not, that's a very like contemporary phrase. Like, we love that. We love that. Right. That's not a 60s phrasing. That's like, but it's just stuff like that where it's like, isn't there somebody that's checking historical act? Like, what a lazy little anachronism. It's just lazy stuff like that makes me think you phoned in a stinker and I'm not going to stand for it. And I wish I wouldn't have wasted my time on this movie.
Does the serial killer catch Pete Holmes and at the end Anna Kendrick have to save Pete Holmes from the serial killer in Act 3?
This guy knows movies. This guy should be making more movies. No, that doesn't happen. It doesn't even remotely happen.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No. Last but not least, My Old Ass. My Old Ass.
Yes.
Surprisingly, Joe, is a maybe. This is a movie a lot of people like. Got a lot of good reviews.
You had pretty good guardrails for 7A. What's the rule on My Old Ass?
So here's the rule. There's a very specific rule for My Old Ass. And this, of course, it's a coming-of-age time loop movie directed by Megan Park, in which this Canadian teenager Elliot, played by a really great actor Maisie Stella, is navigating the summer between high school and college, classic setup, in this sort of remote rural lake town in Canada. She's hanging out with her friends, she's doing mushrooms, blah blah blah. But then her 39-year-old future self, played by Aubrey Plaza, starts appearing to her and helping her to navigate this like critical juncture in her life and reflect on time and aging and happiness and adulthood and all that kind of stuff.
People like this movie. And
look, My Old Ass is a very good movie with some stunningly original performances in it. It's very funny. It's got heart. The only reason I say maybe is because if you are not Gen Z, and specifically if you are older than Gen Z, this movie will make you feel old as fucking dirt, Joe. This movie will make you feel
old ass.
like, because this is one of, add it to the list. We were going to work on this list before. Yeah. Add My Old Ass to the list of like seminal Gen Z movies. This is going to be a seminal Gen Z movie. This movie is so Gen Z, Joe. It is Gen Z in its bones, but with like a confidence. It's like Gen Z has like matured in their aesthetics and sensibilities, and they have given us My Old Ass, because the kids in this movie, Elliot and her friends, these kids are so fucking cool and they're so fucking funny, and they're like cool and funny in a way that is now inaccessible to me and you because of the sands of time. It's like you're watching Through a Glass Darkly, like cool, funny kids, and you're like, oh, I'm so fucking old. I am so fucking old.
I know.
But no fear, the kids are all right.
Okay.
I know half of them apparently voted for Trump, but I think they're going to be fine because this movie is good. I'm fucking old. Watch it. Just be prepared to feel ancient. There are three to four characters in this movie whose energy I have like never seen in a movie before. We were saying before, like when Girls was out, and like the first time you saw Adam Driver in Girls, and you're like, what is this person?
Is this villain hot?
Yeah, like what is this?
Wait, what? They like this?
Yeah,
or they hate. What do they do with
What's
this?
this guy's deal? There's just a sense of like
that.
This is a new type of person in on screen. That happens like 4 times in My Old Ass.
I hate that.
That's why for you it's a no, because I know what you're like, and you're gonna just like
be the grump.
You're just gonna like be so mad about how time has passed you by, and like the kids are smart and funny in a way that like you don't understand, and it's like
it's not true.
And generational turnover comes for us all, is what you're gonna think. But if you are a little more secure with yourself and with the process of time, then I highly recommend My Old Ass.
That's the line. If you're secure with the process of time, if you're not, yeah, I like that.
If you're insecure about aging, don't. This is a trigger movie. It's a big trigger movie.
Insecure about aging. It's just I hate movies about teenagers, especially the new kind.
All right, now you have to watch My Old Ass.
Because
because guess what?
Yeah.
This is like you thought that was your opinion, but when you see it done well and it's like actually funny and charming and original, you're gonna like it.
I've heard from
like
a couple different sources
good.
that this movie's really charming and cute and good and fun, and people like this
that was a
movie
silly, very subjective review. It's a good movie. You should see it.
You're allowed the subjective. It's your review.
Thank you very much. Well, that concludes the first half of movies, baby.
Oh, yeah.
What are we doing next week?
Anything
we
good?
Teased it.
I watched Red
I heard
One.
there's some big movies coming out next week. Let's see. Oh boy, here we go. We got the two big ones. You know what they are? Wicked and Gladiator 2, baby. Wicked and Gladiator 2. And then next week, the return. Weekend at Bergman's 1980s is coming back for a 3-week series leading into our holiday break. Starting with, this is a tough one,
Good one.
This is a tough one. Look at how sort of implicitly these movies line up.
It's
Just
incredible.
the look and the like vibe. Cruising. William Friedkin's Cruising versus Roadhouse, baby.
That's fun.
Versus Roadhouse. That's good.
That's really good.
That's on theme too. That's art house versus popcorn.
That's
movie
really
for sure.
fun. We love that.
I love it. All right. So Cruising versus Roadhouse
only
in the
on
second
the Patreon,
half.
folks.
Only on the Patreon. Thank you. And speaking of only on the Patreon, stay tuned because just in a few minutes, only on the Patreon, patreon.com/moviesbaby with 5 Ys, we're returning with the second half of this week's show, and we are doing our Oscar power rankings. Best actor, actress, supporting actor, supporting actress. We're going to tell you who's rising, who's falling, where's the heat right now, where's the buzz, who do we think is going to get nominated for Oscars this year.
If you're not listening, you're not going to know who we think
You're
is
not
going to
going
get
to
nominated
know.
for an Oscar. And
You're
that's
not going to
just
know.
facts.
And our list ain't Variety's list.
Nope.
It ain't EW's list.
It
ain't Hollywood Reporter's
we
list.
Because we have our ear to the actual
And we got
streets.
instincts. We got instincts.
We got guts.
instincts. All right. We'll see you in 10 minutes. Bye.